हर तरफ फिक्र को दौड़ा के थकाया हमने कोई दीने मुहम्मद सा ना पाया हमने.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu, and welcome to Balance. What is the key to a successful marriage? Is there such a thing as happily ever after? In fact, it is a myriad of virtues that come together to form a successful foundation for a strong marriage. And the most important thing of all is that it takes a lot of time and effort. On today's program, we will explore the different ingredients of a harmonious marriage and how a strong relationship between a married couple can only come about with patience, compromise, and prayers. Joining me today are my guests, Sumera Muzaffar Sahiba. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu.
And Maliha Sattar Sahiba. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu.
Walaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu.
So let's start the discussion from the beginning. During the process of matchmaking, we are guided by our faith to search for those individuals and families who are of the same socioeconomic status as ourselves. And this promotes, finding compatible partners. But I still hear a lot of questions around compatibility, and people say, how do we know we're going to be compatible with our chosen life partner? And how does one achieve this compatibility?
Actually, Munaza, compatibility doesn't really come readily and it's not very easy to find. But Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, has guided us in this regard. And he said that there are many reasons for getting married to a girl. And the best reason is her being a pious and righteous person. When we are looking for a rishta, if we keep this guidance in mind, then right from the start, there would be one big common ground for both husband and wife, and that would be taqwa. If both husband and wife are finding Allah Ta'ala as the ultimate reference point, then Allah Ta'ala Himself will make their hearts coordinated with each other. And once they have their thoughts, their feelings, their goals coordinated with each other, they will become a perfect team.
Yeah, absolutely.
And a team whose ultimate goal is taqwa. Because when taqwa is the foundation, the marriage is going to be strong and stable. If both partners in marriage make worship of God their ultimate priority and are praying constantly, then the marriage is going to be blessed. Prayers not only bring us close to Allah the Almighty, but also help align the hearts of both husband and wives. And compatibility, it's not something that is achieved in a day. Adjustment has to be made from both sides because husband and wife need to understand each other. So, where do we begin? With prayers, patience. Patience plays a big role in marriage. We have to be patient and ready to work on our relationship, giving each other benefit of doubt, forgiving and forgetting the mistakes of one another, and then finding those common grounds. Building on those common grounds are going to achieve compatibility.
And I like your point about how prayer actually not only invites the blessings of Allah Almighty, but it also helps align the hearts, and that's beautiful, and very true indeed. Now, another integral component of a successful marriage is that of trust, and that, of course, comes about with open and honest communication. So, how does one begin to build this bond of trust from the very beginning? How do you trust somebody when you barely know him or her?
Trust is such a critical component in team effectiveness. Without trust, we cannot even take one step forward in our marriage. Just think about it, if both partners are always disagreeing, debating, questioning each other, then nothing will ever be resolved.
And how can they move forward?
Yes. Or at least not decided upon in a peaceful manner. So the foundation of trust is truthfulness. Both partners has to make the commitment right from the very beginning that no matter what, we are going to be truthful with each other. With truthfulness, trust will come, and that is going to give room to love, respect, and affection.
Absolutely.
I completely agree with Maliha actually, because right on day one, it's very challenging to trust each other. It's a big hurdle right in the way how you can trust somebody when you barely know them. But the thing is that trust is a process, and if there is transparency and open communication, then the process becomes easier. When a husband and wife they get married, like right after getting married, they get to know so much about each other, and all of them might not necessarily be the right things or the good things. So at that point, if they show acceptance towards each other, a bit of sacrifice and forgiveness, then actually trust can be achieved sooner rather than later. Keeping each other's the promises with each other, safeguarding each other's secrets, because obviously you know so much about the other person, then fulfilling your commitments and complementing each other. These can be big towards achieving trust.
And I like how you've said that it's a process.
Yes.
So it's important to understand, once again, going back to that common theme of patience and prayers, of course, as well. Let's take a moment to learn more about the roles and responsibilities that Islam has placed on each partner in a marriage.
Islam provides guidance for every aspect of family life. The role of husband and wife are clearly defined so that each knows what is expected of them. Islam views marriage as an equal partnership between two people by which they can gain Allah's pleasure through mutual cooperation, trust, respect, and faithfulness. By adhering to the guidelines laid down by Allah, we will be able to enjoy a successful partnership. Like all good partnerships, spouses have been given defined roles. The Quran says that men are qawwam, maintainers of women, in chapter 4, verse 35. This leads to a common misconception that Islam gives a higher status to men than women. According to this verse of the Quran, it does not mean that men have a distinctive status over women. Being maintainers of women has never been intended as a form of discriminatory treatment. Rather, it concerns the practical management of the home, for which the man is held responsible. Man has been assigned to working outside the home as the breadwinner because of his greater physical strength and psychological abilities. Despite this defined role, mutual respect and cooperation are essential to producing a good relationship between husband and wife. We see this in the life of the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, where he often helped his wives in household chores. Despite being married to women of different ages and social backgrounds, few marriages can compare to the peace and bliss found in the Prophet ﷺ's marriages. Let's now turn to the role and responsibilities of women within the context of a marriage. Allah Almighty created women for the purpose of providing spiritual training to the next generation of mankind. He has given us the responsibility of the spiritual reformation of society. If we ponder over the enormity of this task, it is enough to overwhelm even the most dedicated and devoted individuals. As we all know, to change even one person's heart and mind, to convince them to tread on the right path, is such a difficult task. Albeit overwhelming, this is certainly not an insurmountable task. When Allah assigns a task to someone, He also ensures that they are capable of it. Women certainly do have this quality that they can, over time, with love and care, change people's hearts and minds. They have a natural softness in their demeanor. In a way, women have been blessed with the opportunity to fulfill this duty, because what can be more beautiful than bringing people towards God, exhorting them towards the good so that they may earn the special love of Allah? So first and foremost, it is important for women to realize and recognize what the true and noble objective of their married life is. In order to accomplish this duty, two conditions have to be met. Firstly, the woman herself must have a strong foundation of taqwa. Her spirituality must be developed at a high level, and she must have a strong relationship with God. Her task of moral training starts with herself and then extends to members of her household, for example, her husband and children. Then, slowly but surely, the effect of a woman's training extends beyond her home and becomes visible in society. Secondly, a lot of time must be spent on this effort, as it is not an easy accomplishment. It requires great sacrifice on a woman's part. It is extremely hard to inculcate discipline and good habits even in ourselves, so imagine how hard it is to be responsible for other people's weaknesses. Women will be held accountable in front of Allah for what they taught their children and how they raised them. This is an inevitable fact. The role of a father is also extremely important, but the primary responsibility falls on a woman. Mothers have a bond with their children that the father cannot have, try as he might. This is the reason why the Holy Quran lays a great emphasis on moral development of a woman. As women who adhere to taqwa at each and every step in our lives, we should remember that the sacrifices and compromises that we make are only for the sake of Allah and no one else. As we read in the Holy Quran, "My prayer and my sacrifice, my life and my death are all for Allah, the Lord of the worlds."
Certainly the marriages of the Holy Prophet, peace be upon him, were exemplary, and they're a source of inspiration for all of us. So let's move now to another virtue, which is of respect. As they say, that respect is the golden key of a successful marriage. So how does one go about building mutual respect in a relationship, especially when there's times of disagreement or conflict?
Munaza, respect is such an integral part of the relationship. We are humans. We have our weaknesses. At times, it may seem that our partner is behaving unfairly towards us. His behavior is undeserved. What do? That is the time when we bear it with patience and self-control. When one partner is angry, the other one has to behave kindly. If one partner is venting and you retaliate with a counter argument, nothing good will come out of it.
There's no positive outcome.
And no one is saying that it's going to be easy, but it has to be done. So self-control and patience. Once the situation calms down, do point out his mistakes. And open communication. Instead of keeping it in you and venting it out to someone else, talk to him. Tell him how his words may have hurt you. This reminds me that Hazrat Amma Jan Raziyallahu Ta'ala Anha advised her daughter Hazrat Nawab Mubaraka Begum Sahiba Raziyallahu Ta'ala Anha on her nikah. She said, when husband is angry, and even if you know that he is not right, don't argue back. When you argue back, you may make the situation even worse. Once he calmed down, then point out his mistakes, because pointing out the mistake is also very important. And if he says anything harsh when he is angry, you're going to lose your respect.
Yeah. And then you can't come back from that, right?
Certainly, respect is not just one thing. Respect is actually a set of behaviors. It's not only about how you treat the other person when they're in front of you. It's also about what kind of image you make for them when they are not there. What are your words for them? So it basically has both of these aspects. Being in a respectful relationship is very important, and we need to understand that the other person is not same as you. He or she is a unique existence. The other person is not your shadow. The other person is not your extension. The other person is not a toy or a pet. And a respectable relationship asks that we understand that we are not supposed to control or change the other person. Allah Ta'ala has actually made a husband and a wife a libas for each other. A libas is meant to cover and at the same time to beautify. So both husband and wife, if they have a respectable relationship towards each other, actually they become a one beautiful whole by covering up and complementing each other's weaknesses. So that's how respect becomes the golden key. So,
No, and I like your point in the beginning where you mentioned that respect is not just how you behave and while the person is in front of you and is present. It's about how you behave and how you relate to them when they're not present. And I think that this is a common weakness that sometimes women have, where they will be, simply sharing some incidents or some things about their own married life, about their personal life, their domestic life, and not realize that they're maybe not covering the other partner's weaknesses or faults, etc. And so we should really be mindful of this, especially at the beginning of a marriage when everything is very new and you are very eager to tell your family perhaps or your friends about your newly married life. Now, related to the virtue of respect, we also have the virtue of obedience. And this aspect is very important for sure in a successful marriage. But isn't this concept a little outdated, given that in today's day and age, we feel like equality is the new buzzword?
Munaza, actually, it's important to understand obedience. Obedience comes from trusting each other. It's not a matter of a master and a slave kind of a relationship. It's a matter of listening to each other because you love the other person and you want that other person to be happy with whatever you do. So once the relationship is going and it's like a few years have passed, it becomes a second nature that you listen to the other person. Your hearts are aligned and it's much easier. But in the start, it can actually be a big challenge. What we need to understand is obedience is basically the process of becoming we from the state of me. So it's like if we show a little bit more selflessness, obedience becomes easier. As for the question of equality, Allah Ta'ala has actually given equal rights to men and women both. It's only the Islamic marriage system where Allah Ta'ala has given a little bit of precedence to men, because Allah Ta'ala has made them kawam and Allah Ta'ala has made them responsible for so many things, for the welfare of their family, for providing their financial needs and everything. So with all that responsibility, there has to be some kind of obedience and some kind of precedence. Let's take another example. Islamic marriage system is basically a very strong system. And like any other system, there cannot be two parallel forces running it. Like if you are driving a car and there are two drivers simultaneously driving, just think about it, you're sure to crash. So in this case, to safeguard the passengers, like the children sitting in that system, Allah Ta'ala has given the control somewhat to one of the partners to to actually ensure that it all runs smoothly.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we can also look at this word itaat from a different perspective. The deeper meaning, the root meaning of the word is that being in alignment with the ideology of others. So this means that the effort has to be made from both sides. Both husbands and wife need to take time to understand each other, to know the likes and dislikes of each other, to have open communication. With open communication, when they will reach any decision, there won't be any hard feelings. And as Sumera said, it's a process. So the husband will give the due respect to wife by listening to her suggestion, and wife will give the due respect to the husband by accepting his final say. And we are so fortunate to have the example of Hazrat Masih Maud alayhi salam and Hazrat Amma Jan Raziyallah Ta'ala anha. Despite coming from different backgrounds, they were never at odds with each other. There was taqwa between them. Every time Hazrat Masih Maud alayhi salam asked for financial sacrifice, Hazrat Amma Jan did not hesitate to even give in her jewelry on the first call of her husband. And Hazrat Masih Maud alayhi salam respected Hazrat Amma Jan a lot and cared for her feelings. I will give you an example. Once Hazrat Amma Jan Raziyallah Ta'ala anha suggested that a veranda will be built in the courtyard of Darul Masih, Qadian. Some of the companions of Hazrat Masih Maud alayhi salam objected and said, this is not a good idea. It's going to diminish the beauty of the courtyard. But Hazrat Masih Maud alayhi salam gave precedence to the suggestion of Hazrat Amma Jan Raziyallah Ta'ala anha and said that the veranda should be built. So this is how you build the respect of your spouse in front of others as well, by listening to each other and by listening to the suggestions that they are giving.
Yeah, and these were the exemplary relationships and marriages that can be a source of inspiration to all of us to this day. Indeed. Alhamdulillah, we've been able to cover a lot of very good points today. We've had a very productive discussion. Any last thoughts?
Nizza, actually, we are very fortunate people that we have got so much guidance. Hazrat Khalifatul Masih al-Khamis Ayyadahullah Ta'ala bin Nasri al-Aziz at many occasions has identified three main a set of behaviors that make it difficult for a relationship to go forward. And they are ego, lack of tolerance, and lack of truthfulness. If we can actually replace these negative emotions with selflessness, truthfulness, and patience, there is simply no reason that we cannot have a long lasting and harmonious relationship.
Indeed, inshallah.
I would like to conclude with the words of Hazrat Khalifatul Masih Khamis, Ayyadahu Ta'ala bin Nasr al-Aziz, on the occasion of a nikah ceremony. He said, every Ahmadi who is a true Muslim should always keep in mind that marriage is such a bond. It's an act which becomes a religious obligation, and it is extremely important to fulfill the rights of wives and their blood relation from both sides, men's side and women's side. Thus, if this is perceived in the couples getting married, actually in in laws too, then the domestic life will become the cradle of love, peace, and affection.
Inshallah, inshallah. Jazakallah for joining us today. That brings us to the end of our program, and Jazakallah to our viewers as well. I will end with a prayer from the Holy Quran. Our Lord, grant us of our wives and children the delight of our eyes, and make us a model for the righteous. Chapter 25, verse 75. May Allah Almighty accept this prayer in our favor. Ameen. Jazakallah, and until next time, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu.
हर तरफ फिक्र को दौड़ा के थकाया